Can you hear me?
Yeah, man, I got you. You got me.
All right, I can hear you too. Yeah, that's good. How
Perfect.
you been?
Good, man. Hanging out.
That's great. Wanted to thank you for giving me your time and teaching this. I thought this was a great idea to go into like power moves. And let me just say hi to people real quick. Hi, Sonia. How you doing? All right. So how you been, Aaron?
I'm hanging. What are you up to, man? Besides getting
Nothing,
all
man.
nuts.
Just was doing some editing, some designing, like normal stuff for me.
Oh
So
yeah.
tell me a little bit about you. I know you mentioned that you were actually in Maryland. Were you like born here, lived here, and then moved to Jersey?
Nah, so I went and got my master's degree in Columbia at the University of Integrative Health in
Okay.
acupuncture, which was right around there. And I used to do yoga and teach yoga in Olney. But I used to coach
Okay.
CrossFit. I used to coach CrossFit and weightlifting near Glen Burnie. So
Nice.
I was all over the area,
That's
man.
funny,
That
man. It's just amazing how small this world is, right?
And as soon as I saw you, it was like what 2 years ago. The first thing I said to you, I was like, "Bro, you're from Olney? Like what? Like
Yeah.
what's up, dude?"
Yeah.
That's so funny.
So, also, I wanted to touch on your master's degree.
Yeah,
Knowing knowing that, tell me a little about how does that has played role into what you know now? Because a lot of time people think that you have to like, has it helped at all with what you do
yeah,
now as far as going?
yeah,
Because sometimes they
yeah,
say literature is just like get stuck in time. Because some things do change. Some equipment gets better,
yeah,
technology gets better, right? So that's what I meant.
yeah. I think overall, like what you're doing as a coach, right, and especially is you're trying to make that connection and build that connection. And a lot of like what acupuncture is digging down and figuring out what's actually going on within you. Like
Hmm.
where is all this disease coming from, and how do we solve that? So it's looking at a huge picture and boiling it down to a few key acupuncture points that you can do. I can't think of a better explanation for coaching either. It's the same exact thing. Very, very rarely as a coach are you coaching the person in these movements. You're coaching the person that
Yeah.
happens to be doing a kettlebell swing. And you want to make sure that they do it right and don't get hurt.
Yes. Or don't throw the kettlebell right in front of them in the mirror or the window or the car, wherever they're doing the kettlebell.
I mean, yeah,
And,
hopefully
and
they're
to
not
be
using
honest with
that
you,
much weight.
that's one of my fear teaching someone
Oh,
is
interesting.
that hoping that they don't throw that thing.
So one of the first questions I was going to ask you is, what are your concerns? I don't know if you can
Well,
elaborate
there
that.
you go.
I don't know if
Now,
it's what.
now you know. So all
So
right,
letting
let's teach him how to grip.
Yeah, so really what's going on when you're doing a kettlebell, and what you want to think about is that as you're holding a kettlebell in typically a two-handed grip, and this is true even in a one-handed grip, is the bell is facing here and you're preventing the force with those knuckles. So what's happening is no matter where that force is going, your hand is cupped and it's going to be sitting right behind those calluses, right in this palm,
Yeah.
like the top third, I guess, of the palm, you would say. And that's actually cupping through those, if that makes it. So the same way when you would grab up, if you were trying to do a pull up, most people when they grab a pull up bar, they grab it with their fingertips. And then
Yes, and
look,
that's why the wrist gets weaker
right.
versus grabbing it from a little higher. Yes.
So it's the same concept. So like you'll see this a lot with any kind of like movement theory, is that once you have the general principle of what's going on, you're more likely than not going to be able to translate that to other areas. So the same way you would grab a pull-up bar is the same way, and it's the same thing if you're going to do a lat pull down. You're going to get
Mm-hmm.
over top of the bar. What that
Yes.
does is that brings that elbow into the correct posture,
Yes.
right? Automatically, just from turning that wrist over. So it's the same thing. As soon as you grab just by the fingertips, you open that shoulder up and you open that elbow up. Well, it's the
Yep.
same thing with that kettlebell. If we can grab it in that same area, it's going to stay locked in just by our forearms. And if our forearms get tired, put the kettlebell down. Like we really
Mm.
shouldn't be going to like failure here. And even the weight, like kettlebell is a rhythm exercise. So it's very, very similar to like jumping rope. You don't need to be
Mm.
strong. You don't like, in order to jump rope really quickly, you just have to have really good rhythm. That's
Yes.
really all it comes down to. And it's the same thing with a kettlebell swing. When you start learning how to swing this kettlebell in a rhythm, it becomes very, very simple and easy and repeatable to do. Because really, you're only
Yes.
putting effort in at one portion, and that's really like that
The
swing
trust of
set.
it.
Yeah, so like when you're down here, moving up. So like
Hmm.
everything else is loading into that. So I guess we're starting this. This is
Yeah,
why I'm.
absolutely. No, jump right into it. My
Go
before
ahead.
we get into that, I just a quick small
Good.
question. When we were planning this, you had mentioned that there were two types of cannibal swings. You said American and Russian, correct?
Yep. So you
So
see this
never
real.
heard that before.
Yeah. So a Russian kettlebell swing goes straight out in front of you. So that's a
That's the starting
typical.
position.
Well, no. That's where it ends at. Like the height of the kettlebell is to go to arm's length, where the
Okay.
arm or the shoulder and the wrist are even with one another. So that
Okay.
kettlebell travels and it stops here and then continues back down. An
Okay.
American kettlebell swing goes all the way over your head and then
Hmm.
comes all the way back down. Now, like that is not recommended for beginners. That would be specifically in the population that you deal with, that would be an advanced move. Like we
You know,
wouldn't do that.
when I first started my fitness journey a long time ago, I was told by a trainer not to lift weight above your head. As in what you're saying right now with the kettlebell going up or holding a weight on top of your head was considered bad. Because I was
I would
doing
disagree.
it
Just
was
as a weightlifter, you could travel light.
so I'm like,
My
okay, what
shoulders
happened
work
to
great.
clean and press, shoulder presses? That's weight above your head. Some
Yeah.
it's just amazing things that you hear throughout the places, right?
So check this out, right? Is a pull up weight above your head?
Ooh, good question. A pull-up weight above your head. Well, is it?
I'm asking.
I don't
There's no
know.
wrong answer. Is a
No.
lat pull down? Is a lat pull down a weight above your head?
Ooh, no. Well, I know if you let the bar go, it might chop your chin off.
So what's the difference between a lat pull down and a pull up?
Body weight versus weight.
That's it. It's the
Well,
same movement,
I know you can answer that question million different ways. Same movement, right?
right? Same pattern,
Yes.
same fundamentals.
Yes.
Same fundamentals like when we're going into a deadlift. If we're doing a proper deadlift.
Okay.
That's called a segue. I learned that from listening to a lot of podcasts. So the same thing's happening here. So instead of like that lat pull down analogy that we were just using, right? It's the same position that we want to get into for a good deadlift starting position. The only difference is it's going to be a little bit higher because our shins are going to be vertical. So that's one of the main key components that you want to take away is that the shins should stay vertical, not all the time, but for most of the lift of a kettlebell swing, you want those shins to stay in a more vertical position. And what
Okay.
that's going to do, and more vertical, 90 degrees is not the ideal because every human being is different. Every human
But
being is going to have longer femurs or whatever that
mhm.
is.
With that, please set the record straight. Is kettlebell considered a hinge exercise or a squat?
It would be considered a hinge exercise.
I've seen so many people squat on
Yeah. So
mixing the
you
squat
you
and a thrust together.
you can do it that way. That
Okay.
is not the most efficient way, nor is it the way that is typically taught within kettlebell circles.
So let's
So
talk about the why. Number one, why would you want to implement kettlebell, right? So when we say that you could do it that way too, but then I feel like then you could do so many things so many ways. What is it good for?
yeah,
Because I look at kettlebell swings as like something that is a HIT movement, or
okay,
or sometimes want to target my hamstrings and my glutes differently.
right, yeah. Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to load this entire posterior chain, which is going to be back here, and this
Mm-hmm.
is the active part of what's going on is the hips. Okay, so what's happening is we're using those like hamstrings our lower back and our glutes to load that chain, much like a spring. So you see I drew little arrows up and down
Yeah, I
here.
see it.
So what's happening is this is loading as a spring as we're going down. So as that kettlebell is falling down, we're
Mm-hmm.
loading our body as it's compressing that swing. And then what's happening is it's just going as a pendulum, which is what you see kind of down
Yes.
here. It's just being a pendulum. And all we're doing is extending those hips and locking it. And then our upper back and our shoulders are passive like movers. So all they're doing is they're controlling the movement or keeping it static. Whereas what's happening with that lower posterior chain is that's the active mover. That's the one that's physically lifting the weight.
Mm-hmm. Now, since you talked about the pendulum, real quick for people, so my content that I want to design, the things that I talk about are for the clients that I serve, and most of those clients are your typical average gym goers, right? So, for
Yeah.
example, if I tell them, right, just to mess with them, that a kettlebell swings is a front delt exercise, they'll believe it based on the design of the exercise, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the reason I'm bringing that up is how much I want you to explain how much shoulder involvement is there. Like, sometimes when we're lifting, we concentrate on the muscles that are being used. Now, for you and I, we know, okay, hips and hamstrings, and like, let's just say 1% of shoulders. But how much in actual movement,
Mm-hmm.
how much involvement do the shoulders have?
I would say if I was going to give a percentage, probably
Yeah.
about 10%.
Okay.
So what I would say is imagine this. Imagine you're a kid, right? And you get a bucket with water in the bottom of it. And you remember this at 6 years old, the amazement that you understood when someone swung that bucket overhead, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now they swung it, right? So as they were coming up, they were swinging and the bucket was facing out. That gravity was facing out this way.
Mm-hmm.
If they were pulling it like this, the bucket would be facing down. And
Yes.
then that would go up overhead and it would stay in the same place and it wouldn't be that amazing at all. It would just be, what are those giant, Ferris wheel. Like that's cool, but that's not really big. The amazing part is that it had so much force that the water didn't fall out
The
of the
water,
bucket.
yes, the water stayed inside.
That's the crazy part. So if we look at that model while we're doing kettlebell swings, and I've done this, I've gotten a 5-gallon bucket and some cinder blocks to stand on because I'm super short. Like that's not going to work with a 5-gallon bucket.
Okay.
So like then I've come through and like worked through it, and it's like, oh wow, if I can keep that water in the bucket, I can start getting that. And that's what I'm saying. It takes very little effort when you just start swinging and you start
Mm-hmm.
learning where to put in the effort and where to pull back. Because the great thing about kettlebell swings is that it's this violent concentric force. You squeeze your butt, you lock your quads at the same time, which is
Mm-hmm.
activating the hamstring, even though you're locking the quads. I know it sounds weird. It's still activating the hamstrings more. Just believe me.
I
You're
get it.
locking that lower back, right? And then you're firing up, and then it's this nice passive movement. Okay, let's control, load, and then boom,
Yes.
again. And it's that same thing. It's that same catapult.
Now, the way I guess I'm going to use this as an excuse, or it may sound that way,
Sure.
but I don't necessarily take the kettlebell fully behind me. It goes under, and you see a
Okay.
hinge, but I don't think I'm built that way where I can literally throw the bell behind me, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. If you have shorter arms and like a longer torso, that's really, really typical where it'll
Okay.
come basically right underneath you. But what
Yeah.
you want to, you really want to pretend, like, in order to really get the rhythm, a good trick that I used to do is like when that handle comes back, it should
Mm-hmm.
almost with a light kettlebell come back and kind of hit you right in the butt. And then as it comes back down, and that'll start getting you to understand the timing of how to do a kettlebell
Got it.
because it should be coming back all the way. Like you could see that, like that's almost like a center when they're hiking the football. It's that
Yes.
same hike position.
Okay.
So you're loaded in there and it's like hiked over, but you're, everything's still nice and tight in your upper back.
Now, as far as the power is concerned, is it
Sure.
100% hip thrust, or is there any percentage of the shoulders and arms and your hands basically as secondary movers? What would you
I
say?
would I would say passive at best. So the forearms aren't going to be really used so much at all. They're just passive, right? So it would be the same thing as doing a like a farmer's carry with a kettlebell in your hand, right? You're not
Okay.
actively squeezing, you're just walking. It's the same, it's
Yeah.
holding, and the grip should do its work for you. The shoulders aren't lifting, the shoulders are
Yes.
controlling. You just want them to control where the movement is. So when that kettlebell is weightless, because you've really put in a lot of power, so now
Yeah.
it's floating. You want to make sure that it floats up. Okay, cool. And then as it's coming back down, you want to make sure that you're able to control that position every single time. The
Okay.
arms are always, like in that situation in kettlebell swings, the arms are passive movers. They're just trying to control where things are going.
Now, elbows in and just the arms are moving, or full extension
Like where they like
during
showcase
the
it like
swing.
this?
Yeah, some people
Yeah.
keep their elbows in and just use their forearms.
So for timing issues, that's going to be really difficult to do when you're first learning it. It's much
Okay.
easier to learn the timing when you're coming all the way up. And these are like the differences between two different styles of like pro kettlebell. This is like AKC versus RKC. If you guys
Okay.
want to look that up, like go for it. But these are just two different ways of thinking about it. In one, the elbows kind of break in order to just kind of be passive in order to get up to chest height. Whereas the
Yeah.
other ones, like they want more of the full arms to come up. And I recommend the full arms because that will actually teach you to kind of keep everything nice and tight and locked and still be
Yeah.
passive. Whereas like it's too baity to be like do a reverse curl. Like we
Okay.
can do those separately, right? Like that's why reverse curls is
No, the
good.
reason I was asking because then again, now this is when you're teaching it to somebody, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you show it to a client or something like that, and I feel like they see it, but see, seeing in the whole mind muscle connection, I feel like with the full hand, the arm extension, they might be
Mm-hmm.
working their shoulders, and then when you ask them, okay, cool, after the set or 30 seconds or 45 seconds, whatever time they did it for. They'll be like, okay, I feel it in my shoulder. Am I supposed to feel it there? Like, that's I just love those questions.
Yeah. I mean, you're not supposed to, and you can. It's not about pulling up with the shoulder. It's using your hips. It's the same way if I gave you a giant bag of sand or bricks, you would not like just like lift it up like this. That's this. You just wouldn't do that. You'd put it in your hips and kind of like, ugh.
Yeah,
It's the same thing. Just keep your arms out here. Ugh. Like if you were gonna throw a giant. All right, here we go. Giant bag of flour, 20-pound, 30-pound bag of flour. You want to throw it up and over your head. You're going to keep your arms straight. You're going to lean over and you're going to throw
yes.
it up like that. That's it. There you
Okay.
go. That's a kettlebell swing.
All right, we're done.
That's it.
Well, if you guys, for
Lock
those
it up.
guys who are here, if you have any questions, please make sure you ask them while we discuss this session. Not going to take too much of your time, Aaron. Let's finish up with answering two questions.
Sure.
Where or I should say, where and why should you implement kettlebell swings in your program?
Yeah. Anytime you need really fast explosion, right? So if you need some kind of like fast switch muscle fiber explosion, but you're really like tentative about doing any kind of like cleans or something like that, kettlebell's a great alternative. You're still going to end up working that posterior chain. There's like a lot of real good benefits to doing that, especially like with the hips and glutes. The one thing I would say is don't do kettlebell swings if you don't want to do them. Like if you have no reason or like you're not keen on it, don't like just don't do it. Like there's so many other exercises that you can choose from that if you're like I'm miserable, just don't even do it. Like just go to some. It's fine. It's not a
Try
big deal.
try 60 seconds of kettlebell swings, then you'll feel miserable. Got a question for you, Aaron. Let's see. It says any benefit to going overhead with the swing?
Not necessarily. So you do have to produce more force on the front end, right? So as an example, let's say I love kettlebells, right? I'm really proficient. I have kettlebells, but I don't have a super heavy weight of kettlebells. Like it only goes up to a 35. So I
Okay.
want to generate more force. I want to give more pop, more power. And that's all it is instead of stopping here, that momentum continues all the way up overhead. I have good mobility, right? Maybe I want to open up those shoulders a little bit more, okay?
Okay.
Having weight overhead. And then that kettlebell is actually, it's not going to be standing straight up. It's going to be slightly tilted forward for safety. So you
Mm.
always want to make sure if it does go overhead, it's like slightly, maybe 15 degrees forward, so that if anything happens, something goes weird, your back, anything, you can drop it and it will always fall forward because the mass is forward. You can
And last
always
thing you
fall
want is a
backwards.
kettlebell, a 30-pound kettlebell dropping on your head.
I have a story. We won't go into that, but anyway, it wasn't kettlebell swings, so you'll be
Do you
fine.
remember the gorilla kettlebell that I showed you? The one that I actually
Yeah,
have? That one is 72 pounds.
yeah. So that's a great example though of something like if I really, really want to get like a lot of explosion, and I am only needing to do like 5 reps, that would be a
Mm-hmm.
great kettlebell to do that with because I can use a 70. I can really put a lot of hip into it. I can give it a lot of thrust in order to get overhead. I only have to do 5 reps, so I can give myself lots of time to rest. I can build
Mm.
those fast twitch muscle fiber groups. Like, yeah, it was a Turkish get up fail. You know exactly what I'm talking about. I just saw it pop up. But you
Oh
can see
man,
like
I would love to hear the story some other time.
maybe when we do Turkish get ups,
Okay, cool. I love
I'll do it.
Turkish get up.
I'll do it at the end of the live. It was bad, dude.
All right,
Um,
perfect. We'll figure something out.
all right, cool. Yeah. Anything else?
No, no. Let's see. Let's see who is still here. If you guys have any questions, please drop them. Carla, how you doing? Sonia's still here.
Do
Well,
you have
this
any more
was
questions for me?
from me. No, I have to totally. I think you covered most of it. It's just one of those things where sometimes it becomes a little harder to teach because, well, I guess you kind of want to know who's standing in front of you too. If they're some people are clumsy, some people might not understand how things work. So I guess it just everybody's different. It just takes a lot of time, patience, and work together. Okay, let's see. Got a question that says, do you use it more as a warm-up or a primary movement?
Yeah. So hold on, real quick to answer your first thing. These soft guys, have you ever seen these? These
Oh,
little
yes.
sandbags.
Okay, so you're saying use that instead.
What's the difference? What's the difference? Or a dumbbell? The
Well,
swing, the
grip.
movement right? The movement pattern is what we want. But if this goes flying into something because something's clumsy, this
Mm,
isn't gonna dent something. This is
got
gonna
it.
fall to the ground and die. Like it's just like that's it. It's a
Yep.
sandbag. Whereas like if someone throws a kettlebell, right, that's gonna cause some damage. So like
Yes.
know your
That's
equipment, right?
heavy
It's the
damage.
same.
Okay, I
It's
like
the
those.
same
I'm
movement.
gonna order some of those, and maybe that will help me as
Same
well.
movement. Yeah.
All right, got a question for you. Do you use it more as a warm-up or a primary movement?
Okay, so you can use it as a primer, especially if you're going to go do something that's very specific after that. If it was, I would say if it was if you were going to go do something much higher skill level, like a clean, a deadlift, something like that, I would say I probably would do it as a warm up, right? Like
So
so, like
like
a
15
primer.
to 30 seconds per set, 3 sets
Yeah,
maybe?
I might not even do like time. I might just do like 15, right? Just to like kind of start warming up that lower back, the hips and the
Okay.
glutes and everything to start that movement pattern because
Yeah.
it's the top third of a deadlift, right? Like, oh
Yeah.
wow, I put my hand like perfectly on that guy. It's the top third of a deadlift at the bottom of it.
Yes.
So it's a really, really good like primer, but
And I
that's
just feel like Cannibal will also explosively warm up the glutes and hamstrings, and they
exactly.
will be ready for a heavy deadlifts. Yeah, it could be a good warm up.
Or you can do what you're saying is like, all right, we'll do time. We'll do like interval training. So we'll go 30 seconds on, then we'll move to something maybe like leg extensions or something like that, something that works the opposite of that same joint or
Okay.
muscle, like something where you can compound it, where you're getting more of like that full leg stuff. Then yeah, you would add it in. It's like, all right, well, I'm going to exhaust the ATP with ATP is like what your muscles use to like fire off. So I'm going to
Yes.
exhaust the APT in that posterior chain, and then I'm going to go through and kind of like burn it all out using like something very simple with leg extensions so that the next time I come back to the set, my body's going to adapt the way I want, which is to grow more mass in my glutes and hamstrings, which is the booty blast. This is why this happens.
There you go. All right. Well, this was great, man. I really
Yeah.
appreciate it. This was tons of great info and love the drawings. I was always a fan of a whiteboard. I think that's what I'm gonna do in my office if I have any more wall room. or get a little manual, not manual, but you on the wheels whiteboard and start drawing.
Yeah.
That's,
When I move, I'm gonna get a whiteboard that I can set up right here so I can start doing the thing where I draw on top of
oh
this.
yeah, the transparent one. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. And then
that's
in the settings, you can flip the camera to show your left or right side. So that way,
is
because
this
right
all
now,
backwards?
yes.
Bro.
I don't think you can do it right now because we're in it. That's why I didn't say anything.
Man. All right,
It's
well
okay.
either way, you guys can read backwards
No, but
this
it
time.
makes
Next
sense.
time,
That's what it matters, you know.
I got
But
you.
yeah, all right. Well, thanks, Aaron.
All right.
Everybody who's still here, thank you guys for joining us. We will send me for those of you who joined. If there's a specific topic that you'd like to cover us, talk about a couple other movements, please reach out to us. Send me a DM or leave a comment. And we'll see you on another Sunday.
Yeah, man. All right.
All
Yeah, two
right.
weeks, right?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, thank you, thank you,
All
thank you,
right,
thank you.
Aaron. Take care.
All right, thanks, guys.
Bye.